Now, the number of women and non-binary football fans reporting sexist abuse has risen markedly over the last 2 years. That's according to football's leading anti-discrimination campaigners, Kick It Out. Hollie Varney is their Chief Operating Officer, and she joins me live in the studio. Hollie, thank you so much for coming in. Lots to get into here. And as we've seen with Kick It Out, you do a huge amount of research. You really capture the voice of the fan, I guess, on these critical issues. Yep. You surveyed more than 1,500 fans for this latest piece of work. What sort of experiences did they share with you?
Yeah, so first of all, just to acknowledge that amount of women, over half of them said that they'd experienced sexism or misogyny within football games, predominantly at men's games and predominantly by men. So that's an alarming statistic that so many are experiencing that. And the experiences really vary. So a lot of it that we saw boils down to language, abusive language, wolf whistling. It also builds into inappropriate behaviour in terms of touching, catcalling, threats of physical violence. So there's a real scale of abuse that we're seeing, and it's a really varied range. So we know there's more work to be done to, take a deep dive into those issues and actually do something to address them.
Let's just have a look into some of the headline figures a bit deeper. So 52% of the fans you surveyed have experienced sexist or misogynistic abuse at games. That's a really high figure. Yeah. And you can see there as well, 85% have never reported sexist abuse. Let's just take the first of those stats. How shocking do you find that?
Well, I think it's not shocking to start with that sexism and misogyny exists in football, right? We've known that for a really long time. So the first in football, right? We're really grateful that women have spoken up and we've had a chance to hear from them. The fact that so many women aren't reporting anything around the experiences that they're going through is really quite challenging. I think there's a few things to consider as part of that based on our experience. One is that there's never really been a spotlight on sexism and misogyny in football. It's never really been taken as seriously as other forms of discrimination. It's great that we're having the conversation now around this topic and we're really pleased to be having it. But the biggest issue is that no one really knows what to do with sexism and misogyny, and that's what we want to break down that barrier, improve people's understanding of what this topic is, how it manifests, and make it really clear that this is a form of discrimination and that women shouldn't have to put up with the experiences that they've highlighted to us. So that's the first point. The second point is we've got to improve women's confidence in reporting, and that will come through having a bit more of a spotlight on the issue so that people know that this is a really serious issue that we want to do something about, and we hope that improves their confidence to come to us. And the next part is how do we actually change people's behaviours? The people that are actually being sexist, misogynistic or discriminatory in other forms, we've got to break down those behaviours amongst football fans, and that's something that we're really going to play our part in.
The education piece, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really essential.
We'll come on to that. I just wonder, on that 85% of fans saying that they've never reported abuse, what do you think is leading women and non-binary fans to essentially, suffer in silence and not come forward?
So I think from my experience and from the experience of the women that we've spoken to is that sexism and misogyny is quite often dismissed as banter. It's laughed off, it's, jokes are made about get back to the kitchen or this isn't a place for women, and whatever those tropes might be. And actually we need to change the narrative. So that's really important, that first part, that we actually take a stand and say this is a really serious problem and we are going to take it seriously. So that's the first part for us, really, is making sure that people are aware that this isn't really acceptable language and that we're actually going to do something about it, and we hope that improves the confidence.
I wonder also, how much has your research delved into that initial response from that female fan, non-binary fan, in terms of confronting the person that they've, received this treatment from?
I think with any form of discrimination, if you're on the receiving end, that's quite confronting as an individual. So obviously we'd want people to be mindful about, whatever situation they're comfortable in, not to be too confronting if they don't feel comfortable with that. Yeah. But also a lot of the work that we're going to do is around having people challenge on women's behalf as well. So what can men do to play their part if they witness that behaviour? So being a strong male ally is really important as well. Sure. Yeah. And just being able to understand what it is and how to call it out. So that's part of what we'll be working on as well. Yeah,
well, as a dad of a young daughter as well, and, I'm into sport, she might well get into sport. It'd be nice to see, some of this work, really have that positive impact going forward when Amy, eventually does start to attend games. It'll be a while yet, but
well, we hope so,
hopefully she will. Now, as part of this campaign, there's a new video put together by Kick It Out that puts the sort of abuse we're talking about into context. Have a look at this.
Big gamer today. Borough will face City with the headline news, of course.
Yeah, I know, I'm buzzing.
Oi, oi.
Know the offside rule then, darling?
All right, Charlie?
Oh, there you are.
Oops. Sorry, babe.
There's always got to be a token man these days.
Oh, you're joking.
Get back in the kitchen! What's he doing?
You wouldn't say no though, would you?
Really?
Just ignore it, it's only banter. Charlie? Pub?
Oh, you guys go without me. Got work in the morning, so...
Hey, how was the match?
It was great. Yeah, really good. We won 2-1, so... How was your day?
Challenge it, report it, kick sexism out, and that message is going to be seen much more widely this season,
Yep.
Holly. So what does it entail then, moving forward? What kind of impact could it have?
Well, first of all, that video is all about just opening people's eyes to what women go through on a regular basis, just simply going to a football game. So everything that you see within that clip, they are real life experiences that women have told us about as part of this survey. So we just wanted to flip the narrative to, create.
Yeah, it's a really good video.
Great
You've done a cracking job with
conversations.
it.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
on
Yeah,
that.
a big shout out to our team that have pulled that together. But yeah, it's just a conversation starter, right? To say that this is happening all the time. How does that make you feel as a man watching it? Does this relate to other women as well? So part of the first step of this campaign is acknowledging the problem, and that's what this research and that video aims to do, is showcase what the issue is within football. And then the second part is actually hearing from women, so backing that up with evidence, making sure that we've got a real varied range of opinions and voices from women across different areas of the game. The third part is we've really got to do something about it. So how do we actually drive the change? And we're going to be doing that through looking at our reporting service, how we can gather more reports from women, increasing their confidence in the process, and then also looking at how we can educate everyone involved in the game. So that's fans across the board as well as clubs as well.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now, you also highlight the fact that the LGBTQ plus community, ethnic minorities, also like to be targeted for abuse. So how do Kick It Out plan to tackle that?
Yeah, so sadly what we do see, and what we've seen as part of this research, is that when you're from an underrepresented group as a woman, so if you're from the LGBTQ community, you're black, Asian or mixed heritage, you have an increased chance of being targeted with sexism, misogyny, and even one of those other contributing factors about your identity. So that's obviously clearly unacceptable. So part of what we need to work on is how do we make the voices of those women feel heard? How can we look at how that impacts those different communities as part of being a woman, as well as being maybe a black woman, a gay woman? So there's a lot of work to unpack that as well, and we don't want people to be targeted or have an increased risk of being targeted because of how they identify or what community they're from. So as I mentioned, there's lots of work to be done around education, and we believe that's going to be a key part in this.
Just finally, and very briefly, if you can, Holly, what would your call to action be to a male fan who isn't happy with the language or the behaviour of someone around them and wants to challenge it? What pointers could you give?
So I think the main point is really understand the impact of your language. I think a lot of people do reference maybe having a wife or a daughter or whatever that is, and that's, if you could put yourself in their shoes and flip the narrative like we've shown you in that video, would you be comfortable receiving the abuse that women go through on a daily basis? And if you're not, is there something you can do about it, whether that's calling it out, supporting women and having a voice on the issue?
Fantastic. Holly, this is remarkable work, and we really congratulate you on it. Thank you so much for coming in, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.